What is the status of Taiwan independence? Taiwan independence is a complicated issue that has been going on for decades. It is a political struggle between the Chinese and Taiwanese people. The status of Taiwan independence is currently under debate in Taiwan. The Taiwanese people are divided on this issue, with some supporting the idea and others opposing it. The government of Taiwan has been trying to maintain its status as a democratic country and not to be dominated by China. Taiwan independence is an important topic in the world today because it affects two countries, China and Taiwan, which are both very important global players in their own rights. Taiwan has not yet achieved its status as an independent country. China does not recognize the Taiwanese government, nor does it accept Taiwan independence or membership into WTO for that matter. The biggest motivation for this movement is the concern that China is trying to dominate Taiwan. Pro-Taiwan independence people often argue that Taiwan has more democratic and human rights than China. They also argue that China cannot be trusted in the future of Taiwan. China will not stop its attempt to take over Taiwan when it is weak, but only when it is strong enough to put down the Taiwanese. Taiwan is currently governed by the Republic of China, which was established in 1912. However, it does not officially recognize the island's existing government. In addition to this, it is also generally accepted that Taiwan should be independent from China and can maintain its own separate identity while being a democratic country with human rights. The Taiwanese government has also not yet made any official declaration of independence. China is an influential country within the international community. China has been a global superpower for many centuries. Q1. What are the major characteristics of Taiwanese culture? The people of Taiwan share common cultural traits that continue to be the foundation of modern-day Taiwanese culture. These include an emphasis on education, in particular traditional Confucian values such as filial piety, and an appreciation for harmony in relationships. In contrast to mainland China and Hong Kong, Taiwan has not been subject to colonization by European powers in the past 5 centuries. As a result, Taiwanese culture is not predominantly influenced by Western culture. Q2. What are the major challenges to Taiwan's future? Taiwan's international status has been significantly weakened since 2008. When the United States shifted its diplomatic relations from Taipei to Beijing and normalized relations with China. China's reaction to Taiwan independence. China's reaction to Taiwan independence was swift and harsh. The Chinese government has been trying to exert its control over the island ever since the end of Chinese Civil War in 1949. In recent years, China has been exerting more control over Taiwan through economic means, including the use of their currency. They have also been using military force in order to maintain their rule over the island. China has been imposing pressure on Taiwan for the last few years to maintain their rule over the island. However, recent polls suggest that the Taiwanese are becoming more interested in independence from China. China has been forcing Taiwanese to utilize their military force in order to maintain the status quo. But this is becoming increasingly difficult due to Taiwan's growing economy. The Chinese government has been exerting more control over Taiwan through economic means, including threatening businesses that are seen as too close to the Taiwanese independence movement. They have also been using military force on the island in order to maintain their rule and protect companies from competition. This is becoming increasingly difficult due to the Taiwanese economy's growing power. The Hong Kong mainland China conflict arose in the wake of Britain's increased involvement in China. The British government justified its intervention by arguing for common law and constitutional development throughout China. And Hong Kong was used as a testing ground for these ideas. The trigger for this conflict was Sun Yat-sen's 3 principles of the people. The Chinese army attempted to suppress Hong Kong's declaration of independence, but was met with fierce resistance. In the wake of a series of failed military campaigns, Britain and France intervened and negotiations ensued. The result was a compromise. Britain and France would withdraw from China in exchange for control over Hong Kong's external affairs for 99 years. Hong Kong became a British colony but retained its autonomy. The period of unity in Hong Kong ended in the late 1950s. The 1957 riots led to the Chinese Communist government taking control of Hong Kong, which was then governed by Britain under an agreement called the Joint Declaration Agreed. Upon between Winston Churchill and Mao Zedong's first secretary Zhou Enlai. What is the new U.S.-Taiwanese relations? The United States and Taiwan have long been considered close allies. The U.S. has provided Taiwan with military protection, economic aid, and diplomatic support. However, the U.S. has also been a source of tension in the relationship between Taiwan and China. In 1979, President Jimmy Carter recognized the People's Republic of China as the sole legitimate government of China. In 1982, Ronald Reagan followed suit by recognizing Peking as the sole legitimate government of China. This led to fears among Taiwanese that they might be abandoned by their country's most important ally. Since 1979, there have been three major turning points in U.S.-Taiwan relations. 1. The U.S. broke diplomatic relations with Taiwan in 1979. 2. President Reagan recognized Peking as the sole legitimate government of China in 1982. 3. President George W. Bush adopted a strategic shift in U.S. policy on Taiwan in 2001. United States and Taiwan were allies before World War II, but the United States switched their allegiance to China during the war. President Richard Nixon then imposed trade sanctions against Taiwan because they did not recognize Chiang Kai-shek's government. And they were involved in nuclear weapons development without U.S. approval. These sanctions eventually led to U.S. arms being sent to mainland China after the Chinese had already invaded Vietnam. Bush Jr.'s change in policy was to try to buy time and preserve the status quo with China, until he could work his way into a position of strength, that is, deal with China with a diplomatic compromise. Bush Jr. hoped that the U.S. removal of support for Taiwan would compel them to recognize communist rule on mainland China, or else risk losing America's financial and military support. However, Bush Jr. underestimated China's resolve, most of all because he did not know how dangerous Taiwan's leader was. Another possible explanation for Bush Jr.'s decision is that his administration may have been aware of information about possible Chinese military action, but did not share this information with the president. Stay tuned for part 2 of biggest change in U.S. relations with Taiwan and China since Mao, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel please. Thank you.